Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Hoot. When we left off, we were in the middle of chapter 15, and it looks like Roy has set up Dana Matheson. He told him there were cigarettes in Curly's trailer. Looks like Dana got snapped by some mouse traps, and now he is getting caught by Officer Delinko. Hasn't been Dana's best day. Why did you run? He asked the young prisoner. I want a lawyer, the kid replied, stone-faced. Cute. Officer Delinko put the squad car in a U-turn so he could take the boy to the police station. Glancing in the rearview mirror, he spotted another figure, hurrying up the street, waving frantically. Now what? Thought the policeman, stepping on the brakes. Whoa, wait up, shouted the approaching figure, his unmistakable bald head glinting in the streetlights. It was Leroy Brannett, also known as Curly, the foreman of Mother Paula's project. He was huffing and puffing when he reached the police car and drooped wearily across the hood. His face was florid and smudged with dirt. Officer Delinko leaned out the window and asked what was the matter. You caught him, the foreman exclaimed breathlessly. Way to go. Caught who? The policeman turned to appraise his prisoner in the back seat. Him, the little sneak who's been messing up our place. Curly straightened and pointed accusingly at the teenager. He tried to bust into my trailer tonight. Lucky I didn't shoot his fool head off. Officer Delinko fought to contain his excitement. He'd actually done it. He had caught the Mother Paula's vandal. I had him pinned and he got away, Curly was saying, but not before I wrung his name out of him. His name is Roy Everhart. Go ahead and ask him. I don't need to, said Officer Delinko. I know Roy Everhart, and that's not him. What? Curly was fuming as if he expected honesty from a young burglar. Officer Delinko said, I assume you want to press charges. You bet your shiny tin badge I do. This creep tried to blind me, too, threw dirt in my face. That's an assault, Officer Delinko said, to go along with attempted burglary, trespassing, destruction of private property, and so forth. Don't worry, I will put it all in the report. He motioned to the passenger side and told Curly to hop in. You need to come down to headquarters. My pleasure. Curly scowled at the sullen lump in the back seat. You want to hear how he got those rat traps on his tootsies? Later, said Officer Delinko. I want to hear everything. This was the big break that the policeman had been waiting for. He could hardly wait to get to the station and pry a full confession out of the teenager. From training films, Officer Delinko remembered that delicate psychology was necessary when dealing with uncooperative suspects. So in a deliberately mild voice, he said, You know, young man, you can make this much easier on yourself. Yeah, right, the kid muttered from the mesh partition. You could start by telling us your real name. Gee, I forget. Curly chuckled harshly. Putting this one in jail is going to be fun. Officer Delinko shrugged. Have it your way, he told the teenage prisoner. You got nothing to say? That's cool. You're entitled under the law. The boy smiled crookedly. What if I got a question? Go ahead and ask it. Okay, I will, said Dana Matheson. Either one of you dorks have a cigarette that I could burn? Or that I could bum? Chapter 16. The doorbell rang while the Everharts were eating lunch. On a Sunday, honestly, Roy's mother said. She believed that Sundays should be reserved for family activities. You got a visitor, Roy's father said when he returned from answering the door. Roy's stomach nodded because he wasn't expecting anybody. He suspected that something newsworthy must have happened last night at the Pancake House property. One of your buddies, Mr. Everhart said. He said you guys had planned to go skateboarding. Oh, had to be Garrett. Roy was almost dizzy with relief. Yeah, I forgot. It's all right. His friend brought an extra, said Mr. Everhart. Roy rose from the table, hurriedly dabbing his mouth with a napkin. Is it okay if I go? Oh, Roy, it's Sunday, his mother objected. Please, just for an hour? He knew his parents would say yes. They were happy to think he was making friends at his new school. Garrett was waiting at the front steps. He started to blurt something, but Roy signaled for him to keep quiet until they were away from the house. Wordlessly, they skated on the sidewalk to the end of the block, where Garrett kicked off his board and exclaimed, You won't believe it. Dana Matheson got busted last night. No way. Roy was trying to act more surprised than he was. Obviously, the Mother Paula's property had been under surveillance, just as he had anticipated. The cops called my mom first thing this morning, Garrett reported. He tried to break into a trailer and steal some stuff. As the guidance counselor at Trace Middle School, Garrett's mother was notified whenever a student got into trouble with the law. Garrett said, Dude, here's the killer. Dana told him that he was you. Oh, that's nice. What a butthead, right? And they probably believed him, Roy said. Not even for a minute. Was he alone, Roy said? Anybody else get arrested? Anybody like Beatrice Leap's stepbrother, he wanted to say. Nope, just him, Garrett said. And guess what? He's got a record. A record? A rap sheet, dude. Dana's been busted before, is what the cops told my mom. Again, Roy wasn't exactly shocked by this news. Busted for what? Shoplifting, breaking into Coke machines, stuff like that, Garrett said. One time he even knocked down a lady and swiped her purse. Mom made me promise not to tell. It's supposed to be a secret because Dana's still a minor. Right, said Roy sarcastically. You wouldn't want to ruin his fine reputation. Whatever. Hey, you ought to be doing somersaults. Yeah, what for? Because my mom says they're going to lock him up this time. Juvie Hall? No doubt, said Garrett, on account of his rap sheet. Wow, Roy said quietly. He wasn't in the mood to turn somersaults, though he couldn't deny experiencing a sense of liberation. He was tired of being Dana Matheson's punching bag. And while he felt guilty about making up the bogus cigarette story, Roy also couldn't help but think that putting Dana behind bars was a public service. He was a nasty kid. Maybe a hitch at Juvie Hall would straighten him out. Hey, you want to do the skate park? Garrett asked. Sure. Roy got on his borrowed skateboard and pushed off hard with his right foot. The whole way to the park, he never once checked over his shoulder to see if he was being stalked. It felt good, the way Sundays ought to feel. Curly awoke in his own bed. And why not? The mother Polismanda was finally in custody, so there was no reason to spend the night on guard at the trailer. After Officer Delinko gave him a lift home, Curly had entertained his wife and mother-in-law with a blow-by-blow account of the exciting events. For dramatic purposes, Curly had jazzed up a few of the details. In his version of the story, for instance, the surly young intruder disabled him with an expertly aimed karate chop, which sounded much more severe than having dirt thrown in your face. Curly also decided it was unnecessary to mention that he had tripped in an owl burrow and fallen. Instead, he described the chase as a breathless neck-and-neck sprint. Officer Delinko's role in the capture of the fleeing criminal was conveniently minimized. Curly's performance went over fabulously at home, and he was so confident that Chuck Muckle would go for it too. First thing Monday morning, Curly would call Mother Paula's corporate headquarters to give the vice president the results of the details of the arrest and his own heroics. He couldn't wait for Mr. Muckle to choke out a congratulation. After lunch, Curly sat down to watch a ball game. No sooner had he settled in front of the TV than a Mother Paula's commercial came on promoting the weekend special. $6.95 for all the pancakes you could eat, plus free sausage and coffee. The sight of Kimberly Lou Dixon playing Mother Paula made Curly think of the cheesy movie he rented, The Last Night on Witch Boulevard 3. He couldn't recall whether it was due back at Blockbuster that afternoon or the following day. Curly hated paying late fees on video rentals, so he decided to go to the trailer and get the tape. On the drive there, Curly was distressed to remember that he'd left something else at the construction site, his gun. During the night's commotion, he had somehow lost track of the .38 revolver. He didn't recall having it when he was riding in Officer Delinko's patrol car, so it must have slipped from his belt while he was scuffling with the kid outside the trailer. Another possibility was that he dropped it when he stepped in that darn owl hole. Misplacing a loaded gun was a serious matter, and Curly was highly annoyed with himself. When he arrived at the fence lot, he hurried to the area where he and the teenager had wrestled. There was no .38 lying around. Anxiously, Curly retraced his steps to the owl den and pointed a flashlight in the hole. No gun. Now he was genuinely worried. He checked inside the trailer and saw that nothing had been disturbed from the night before. The door was too damaged to be reattached, so Curly covered the opening with 2 sheets of plywood. Then he began a methodical search back and forth across the property, eyes glued to the ground. In one hand, he carried a heavy rock, just in case he encountered one of those poison moccasins. Gradually, a harrowing thought seeped into Curly's brain, chilling him like ice water. What if the teenage burglar had swiped the revolver while they were fighting? And we'll stop there.